I was actually born in a place called Kitchener, Ontario, Canada. Didn't stay there long, I lived there for about a year. Moved to another small town called Huntsville, Ontario. Lived there for another year or two. Then moved to an even smaller town called Grand Valley, Ontario, which had about maybe 7,000 or 8,000 people in it. And then when I was about, say around 10 or 11, is when I moved to the big city of Orangeville, Ontario, which is about 40 minutes north of Toronto. I had a great childhood, you know, but I was the kind of kid that, you know, I was like a curious kid, you know. I was always exploring and always seemed to be getting into trouble somehow, so not far off of what you see on television today, to be honest with you. I think we moved around so much when I was a kid because my father was a teacher and he was looking for work. My father's American and my mother's Canadian. At the time, my parents were living in the U.S. and my older brother was actually born there. And my father was having a hard time finding a teaching job. And they had heard there was a lot of teaching jobs and stuff available in Canada, so they decided it might be better to move back. It was a little bit closer for my father to his school, and also at the time my parents had bought a sporting goods store in that town. So my mom was running that while my dad was teaching, and then so that's how it all turned out. That's how we ended up in Orangeville. My older brother actually runs Sears Flooring Center in Orangeville, and it actually my family still resides there actually. So he runs that, and then my younger brother is actually a real estate agent. So, and he was a music teacher for years. He plays guitar, so I think he still does that a little bit on the side. But he's a real estate agent. They're both doing very well for themselves. Went to college in Toronto at a place called Humber College. I took social science, and was you know, not really sure what I wanted to major in. So I was just kind of taking different courses and things like that. But I always knew that I wanted to be a wrestler, and I was just kind of going to college because I felt that's what I had to do, not because I really wanted to. I mean, it was a great experience, and I'm glad looking back that I got a chance to do it. But at the time, you know, I knew I was just kind of, like I said, doing it because I felt it was something that my parents wanted me to do, or that I had to do it. But actually, I took a portion of my student loan money for my tuition and paid for my wrestling school. So at the time, I was going to college during the week, and I was training to become a wrestler on the weekends. So I guess actually without going to college, I wouldn't have been able to pay for wrestling school, so it worked out. I worked at a place called Shoppers Drug Mart, which is like a Walmart or a CVS or something along those lines. I was, you know, stock shelves and things like that, and it was funny because I had to wear this goofy outfit, you know, these blue work pants, and I had a red belt, and I had this white and red pinstripe shirt with my name and the stock boy on the name tag. And then for a while they were getting really busy on the weekends, I remember, and they didn't want to hire another cashier to come in just in case they got busy, so they decided to train the stock boys to be the last resort cashiers. So I was like, oh man, it was all the girls, you know, so I was a little embarrassed about it, but I did it. And of course, whenever it would get busy and I'd be up there in cash, all my friends would come through and buy stuff and make fun of me in my uniform. And I worked in a wood mill when I just finished up college, trying to make ends meet, trying to pay back my student loan. It was a brutal job. It was terrible. I got up every morning. I had to drive about a half hour, 45 minutes to work every morning. So I was up every morning at 5, and then you know, it was summertime. It was so hot, and it wasn't ventilated in these mills, you know. So you had to. There wasn't any air conditioner in that, but you had to wear jeans and you had to wear like long sleeve shirts. We had a face mask and goggles and earplugs because of the dust and all the noise and all that sort of thing. And man, it was just a brutal job. And I remember this one time, this kid, about the same age as me at the time, maybe 20 years old, and he was working one station over from me, and he, you know, there's a piece of wood by his saw, and the saw came up through the table, and the saw, you know, was just coming up a ½ inch. I guess it wasn't leveled properly, and he went to wipe it away, and he cut his thumb off. And I remember seeing the kid run out like this, and it freaked me out. And then of course I said, can you go over there and watch his station while we take him to the hospital? So now I'm all freaked out all day, hoping I don't get my hand cut off or something like that. And I was like, man, I really got to make it out of here. I got to do something else. I can't do this stuff for the rest of my life. And then I remember going up on my first day of work there. I remember sitting in the lunchroom and looking around and seeing guys that were doing the exact same job that I was. And this was my first day, that had been there 15, 20 years and were probably going to be there for the rest of their lives. And it kind of gave me a good kick in the ass to make something of myself, and I knew what my dreams were, and really kind of doing stuff like that really gave me the motivation to really go after my dreams and do what I wanted to do, because I didn't want to end up, and who's to say, maybe those guys loved their job, but I'm quite sure they probably didn't, and I didn't want to be one of those guys looking back saying, you know, when I was younger, I really wish I would have went after what I really wanted to do in life. So it really, like I said, motivated me to become what I am today. My first exposure to wrestling, I guess, was, I'll have to give you a little bit of backstory on it. My, you know, obviously growing up in Canada, hockey ruled. Hockey was everything, you know. So every Sunday we would go and we would skate around the rink, and not even playing hockey, just skating with all the kids in the neighborhood and stuff like that. So we were skating, we were racing back and forth in the rink one day, and I hit a chunk in the ice, and I went head first into the boards, and of course I broke my shoulder, and the break was kind of so high up on my shoulder that they couldn't put a cast on it. So I had to have it this kind of weird sling that kind of held my arm right against my body. And I couldn't go to school because I couldn't get nudged or knocked or anything like that. So I was kind of confined to the house for like 8 or 12 weeks or something like that. So of course on the weekends, my brothers were outside playing, all my friends were outside playing, I was stuck in the house. So I remember one day I was just flipping through the channels and I stumbled upon a wrestling show. It was WWF wrestling, and I was like, I didn't know what it was, but it took me right away. I was like, what is this? I didn't know what it was. And, after that hour was over, I was like, man, I got to see that again. So I started flipping through the channels, and sure enough, that was on the Canadian station. But being so close to Buffalo, New York, we got some Buffalo station, so it was on the Buffalo station the next hour. So of course I watched that, and then next thing you know, I'm looking through the TV guide and see what else other wrestling I could find. And then, so I mean, like I said, we had wrestling on literally nonstop throughout the week. And I was hooked on all of it. I recorded it all, and I'd watch it over and over again. And I was just, like I said, I was just consumed with wrestling as a kid, and I loved it. And I remember actually one time I was contemplating, quitting hockey because I didn't want to give up my Saturdays of watching wrestling. So my parents actually talked me out of it and promised me that they would tape all my wrestling. So when I came home from hockey, I could watch it on videotapes. But that's how much I loved wrestling. Adam Copeland and myself, we became friends when I moved from Grand Valley to Orangeville. That's where he grew up his entire life. We weren't in the same class when I moved there. They had two separate classes. I moved there in the 6th grade, and he was in the other class. I was in a different class. So I guess he had heard, oh, there's this new kid here, blah blah blah. And of course, being the new kid, I'm kind of shy by nature anyway. If I don't know, especially when I was a kid, I was really shy. So I remember a friend of mine had given me a ninja throwing star at the time, and so I was just like, they're trying to fit in with these new kids. I'm like, hey, I got this ninja throwing star, and everybody was like, oh, what is that? And of course it kind of made me the popular kid, for a little while, where everyone was like, oh, you want to use it? Yeah. So we were throwing it at trees and things like that, and then I was like, yo, actually, I'm thinking about selling this thing. And everyone's like, oh yeah, everyone's bidding on it. Well, I want to buy it, I want to buy it. And I'm like, well, I mean, this thing's kind of making me popular. Maybe I should hold on to it. So actually, I think at the time, Adam was probably the highest bidder. He really wanted to buy this thing. So after school one day, I'm like, hey, we'll come over and I'll let you throw it, see what you think. So we're throwing this ninja star, and then I was telling him after, I don't think I'm going to sell it, but I'll let you use it whenever you want, whatever, however it played out. But we got to talking, and from that, and I mentioned something about wrestling, and turns out that he loved wrestling just as much as I did. And next thing you know, we both had the wrestling action figures, so we'd be talking about action figures we had and who we liked and who we hated and all that sort of thing. And next thing you know, we were, we had a bond with wrestling, and we became best friends, and we were inseparable after that. And we spent a lot of weekends he would spend at my place, staying over at my house, and we would wrestle in the backyard. We'd beat up my younger brother and practice our finishing moves on him and stuff like that. So that's pretty much how our friendship came to be, and we're friends to this day. We found out that there was a local guy that ran a hotel that was promoting it in the town. So of course we found out the guy's name, and we showed up at his work, and we were like, hey, one day we're going to be wrestlers and this and that, and we just want to, anything we can do to help out. We'd love to set up chairs or set up the ring or whatever. And the guy's like, yeah, sure, just show up at the arena, whatever.